Om Shanti. Welcome everyone to the special seminar webinar organized by Brahma Kumari's Bahrain Meditation Center and Harmony House Kuwait. We are very fortunate today to have Lotta Arbman. It's a very appropriate name. We were just discussing Lotta Arbman with us, and she has chosen a very beautiful topic for us today. And the topic is living with purpose. And I remember I was in Delhi studio for 5 years in my life, and every day we were getting calls on this subject, that what is the purpose of our life. Everybody wants to know purpose of their life, even though they want to know from others, but they want to know. And I personally have had a very special experience with Lotta. We were in a retreat for more than a week, and we were together, and I was noticing that how she was having lots of responsibilities and many other things she was having on her head, but still that sparkling smile never left her. So that was very inspiring. And a brief introduction of our speaker today. So she was born in 1960 in Stockholm, and 1982 she came across Brahma Kumaris. 1984 to 1988 she helped in establishing BKs in Denmark, and in 1988 she started coordinating the BK activities in Sweden, like meditation courses and seminars together with the team. In 1995 to 2007, she held the self-managing leadership programs at BKs and in business, cultural, and military organizations. In 1988 to 2011, she worked as an administrator at a business school. And in 2011, she discovered the Spirit of Humanity Forum, a global network of leaders and change makers committed to help bring about change in governance and decision making based on core human values. And right now, she is the secretary there. And at heart, she is an inquisitive dreamer with an artistic background in illustration and painting. So we are looking forward, Lotta, to listen to your words of wisdom. Over to you. Thank you.
I have to unmute. Thank you very much, Pavitra Ben, for that very accurate introduction, word by word. And I'm very honored to be visiting Middle East in this way, through the able to do it online is quite remarkable. I didn't have to buy a flight ticket. I didn't have to go to an airport, but in 1 second I arrive where you are. And we were joking about my name, that my surname, many call me Arbman. And I'm very happy when they say that because I feel I can belong anywhere. The same way as I am very happy to work for something called Spirit of Humanity, because I believe that's what the world really needs. We need to connect everywhere and remove all these different barricades that are between our cultures and countries and languages, etc. So the opportunity to talk about purpose is very beautiful, because purpose means a lot to me. And I think purpose means a lot to anyone, because purpose and meaning are two things that are very deeply connected. And I was, as I was thinking what to say about this today, what I was thinking to start from is that our society, and I think this is all over the world, is training us not to think about purpose, but actually go very much in a different direction. From school, we learn to be in competition with each other. We learn to think about gaining points. We learn to have examinations, and we learn to think about ourselves as valuable, that our value is connected to external performance, and our value is connected to what other people think of us, how they measure us, how many points they give us. And when you think about it, it starts already in school. What happens is that when we measure each other in terms of external performance, we start to compete. And it's like putting kids, children, in situation where they are not only friends, but even friends are suddenly competitors. And that can also mean enemies. In a way, you can say a competitor is an enemy. You're trying to get the prize, both of you. And if you think about how that starts so early and how it gets into our blood and in our heart and our soul, our whole world has become a world of competition. And so that there are wars in the world is no wonder when we think how this training comes already from school. And we might think that then, that our teachers and our parents, it's their fault. But it's not really, because they were also put in school in competition when they were children. When they grew up, they also learned that in order to get the place, in order to earn money, you have to fight for it, you have to use your elbows. And so I see a world where we are extremely focused on the outside, the performance, our talents, our skills. And in all of this focus, a sense of meaning gets lost. So someone may have a career. Of course, after you in school, you learn to get your grades, and then you have a career. And in a career, you also want to get your grades, your diplomas, your proofs of your value. And what often happens is that someone who works for a career very focused very often ends up, climbing the ladder of a career. And at the top of the ladder, they realize that the ladder is leaning towards the wrong wall. If you get what I mean by that. Leaning against the wrong wall, you could say it's an illustration, meaning that you hope to get a sense of fulfillment. But very often, people in the world who are successful in the world, in the eyes of the world, very often they feel quite empty inside. And I think the reason for that is that so much concentration goes to the external achievements, but there is no thought about the sense of meaning and sense of purpose. And if you turn this around, you can also see that a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose is very important in order to find a solution for the wars, solution for the tension, solution for the conflicts and fights over territory, or all these conflicts that we have in our society. So many feel that peace is not possible because if you look in history, there's always been war. Well, you can put a question mark to that, because if peace was not possible, there would be no people talking about peace. If it was our natural tendency to be aggressive and competitive, then nobody would bother. we would just continue like that. And so how I connect then peace and a sense of purpose is because I listened to someone recently who also reminded me about this question of sense of meaning. He is living in America. He had a very difficult childhood. His father is black, his mother is from Korea, and he was brought up in an area where there were very strong racial conflicts. And so he said, I ended up like an racial outcast. I didn't belong anywhere. And his father, being black, he was working in the military because he felt it's the only place where he has a chance to be treated equal. But then in the military, he was sent to war. And in those wars, he was badly hurt in his soul. And so he came back very disturbed. And so when his son was born, the son had a very difficult childhood where the father was very angry and very disturbed inside and using alcohol, etc. So the person I'm describing, he had this horrible upbringing. And he said something that made me really think. He said, as I grew up with all these frustrations, it ended up, in one hand, I had had traumas from my childhood, and I had trauma with the experiences I had in school. But this trauma became what is called rage. You know, rage is that when you get so angry that you can't control yourself, you get so angry. And he said, I was sitting in school and I often ended up in fights. I was almost being kicked out of school because I ended up in fights all the time. But he explained it that because I had so much rage inside, I was like always like a ticking bomb. And then he also said that in school, I used to fantasize every day about using a machine gun to shoot down all my classmates. And he said, I'm telling you honestly, this is the feelings I had. This was the level of rage and desperation that I had during those years. He said, luckily I was diverted. That didn't happen. Of course, it's a long step, having the thought and doing the action. But it made me think, as we hear so much of these situations happening in the world where someone takes a machine gun and just shoot down everyone around them. And we often think that they're just crazy people. You know, when we hear it, we think that they are so bad, they are so bad. But when this man was sharing this story, it for me put a completely new perspective to what people are going through in the world and why they do these kind of things. We usually call them madmen, or we think we want to have an explanation that they are so mentally ill and that's why, but we don't think about that there is a story behind them too. What happened to him, he also joined the army because his parents were convincing him that it's the only chance. If you want to be treated equal, that's the only place you can go. So he joined the army, and he also went to war. He became a captain, he advanced, but then he left after 7 years. And he left with the intention to work for peace. So how did that happen? He said that he had a realization. He had the realization that in war, you become traumatized. And also rage is a form of trauma. And he said, when you see war, it's completely meaningless. What you see, what's happening, it makes no sense when you get close to it. And people also get crazy in those situations because it's so inhumane. He explained that people get trauma by performing those actions, even if they themselves are not hurt. But it's so unnatural for the human psyche to do these kind of actions. So in him was born the thought that trauma can be healed and rage can be healed, but it needs to be taken care of if we want to see peace on earth. Because there is a direct connection between all these unhealed traumas and deep, deep hurts in people, and coming to the point where countries and leaders creating war with each other. And so he suddenly saw light, something that he could work for. And he said, that gave me a sense of meaning. And he said, that changed me completely. And he now speaks for these things very clearly, and he speaks about actually peace literacy, that we need an education for peace. He says in school we learn a language, and that takes years. Usually we train the language, even our own native language, to be able to manage it very well. We have years of training. And he said, but in my school, I remember we had someone coming and talking about peace. And that was 30 minutes in a big aula where all the classes were gathered together, 30 minutes. And he said, in war, when you wage war, you have a training that goes on for years. You learn about strategy, you learn about tactics, you learn about plans and methods. There are books on this, that are being created since hundreds and hundreds of years back in history. And he said, so if we create plans for create war and we learn how to manage that, wouldn't we equally then be able to create peace if we studied it and learn about it? So that became very strong sense of purpose in his life, and he's very articulate. So it's very interesting to see a person who has changed so radically, so dramatically, from sitting in school and wanting to kill all his classmates with a machine gun and now is spending his life to talk about peace. And he spends a lot of his time not earning anything because it gives him such a sense of meaning. And so we can look for positions in the world. We can look for meaning in earning prizes. You know, you have seen all these galas that are being created in the world, and we enjoy often to see the winner of the prize. But what we often don't think about is that we have one winner, but we equally, as we create a winner, we create losers. And so that is the external way of thinking that we achieve something. But the sense of purpose is something that comes from inside. That's something very personal. It's something that we have to discover in our own lives. You don't create a purpose. And I can give an example of that. As the introduction told you, if you heard all of that, it was a lot to swallow. But in the introduction, it was told that I used to work with a course called Self-Managing Leadership, and it was a leadership course that was, it is developed for management. It's developed for leaders who want to become better leaders in all different kinds of sectors in the world. And one of those courses that I had, there was one woman that in the beginning of the course, they have to sort of clarify for themselves a reason for why they wanted to take the course. We asked them all. And there was one woman, she was in her career, she already had a very good position. And she said, my aim is to become the CEO of the organization where I work. And then the course started, and we continued for a while. And I think half the course had passed, and suddenly she was laughing. And she was laughing very much from her heart. And she said she was laughing heartily. And she said, I'm laughing at myself because I realize it's not important for me to become the CEO of this organization. She said, what I realize, it's important for me. How do I wake up in the morning? How do I start my day? Because she had an insight during this course where she had thought to herself that she was always rushing in the morning. So she had a plan every morning to do 5 things. And that included to have a proper breakfast, put her hair in proper order, to select the right clothes, to do everything peacefully. 5 things that she would do. But in the morning, she was usually so tired that she was negotiating away one after the other of these things. And then it ended up doing it in a rush. And she said that my breakfast wasn't a breakfast, it was a yogurt in the car. And then when I came to my work, I rushed in. And she said, you know what? She said, I was deceiving myself to such an extent that when I went into the office in a rush, I had the idea in my mind that I'm giving the impression of being busy woman, as if it would be something good. But now in this course, when she had the opportunity to reflect more deeply and sit and share with others about how are we doing things and what is purpose in life, what creates meaning. She said, I realize I'm just totally cheating myself. This doesn't make any sense. But what was so nice was that she wasn't upset with herself for having this realization. She was very happy because she learned from it made a lot of meaning for her. If I start my day peacefully and with a sense of respect for myself, how different wouldn't my experience of life be? And so when she had that, it was like you connect with your purpose when you have this kind of realization. You connect with yourself, and what you were aiming for that wasn't the real aim, suddenly that has no attraction anymore. And so it was very interesting to see someone coming to a course with the aim to learn to become the CEO and changing her mind happily, realizing that that's not important to me. It's important how I treat myself, how I live my life. And so this is what is, for me, a sense of purpose. Of course, purpose would not only be how I wake up in the morning, but that is like a thread that you catch when you start thinking about what is my purpose in life. And I was thinking, as I'm sharing a little bit about this self-managing leadership course, that we could do a little exercise now here where you could sit and have a moment of reflection about your purpose in life. What is it that creates a sense of meaning for you? Because if you catch that sense of meaning, you connect with all your strengths. Maybe one thing I should say also in connection to that is, purpose connects with our values, and we all have different values. Of course, it connects very much with our personality, our experience, etc. And somebody asked me at one point, is purpose always a good thing? Well, it's good in the sense it creates a focus. When you have a purpose, you have a sense of meaning. You can see a direction in your life. You have a sense of meaning, why you are here. What is the reason for living? And of course, it can go crazy because, we have seen big leaders in our world that have thought that they were going to rule the world, dominate the whole world with one rule, etc. And you can say, in a sense, that was they thought that was their purpose in life. The way I see it is that they were very disconnected with themselves and very much under the illusion that this is my purpose in life. And often that you can express it, you can we see it being expressed as, I think it's called megalomania. When you think you are you think you are a god, basically. And we can also see that it never ends well. It never works. Of course, it's not meant to be like that. So when a purpose becomes like that, ruling over others or dominating over others, it's never connected with your heart. It's never connected with the real you. Because when we connect with ourselves very deeply, and we can sense our deeper values, we will always feel respect for ourselves, and that in itself will also feed the respect for others. So that is a difference. In one way you can explain it like that. So would you like to do a little exploration into your own purpose in life, and to hear these questions? I will ask you questions, and we can do it in a meditative way, where you get the chance to reflect on these questions and just see what kind of answers comes to your mind. I see you, Pavitra, coming up here, so I don't know if you want to say something to me. No? Okay.
No, please continue.
Good. So I will have to actually bring them up here. Also, I have the questions here in front of me. I haven't done this for a long time, so it's very nice actually to reconnect with this. And I can explain one thing. When I started to run this course, Self-Managing Leadership, I came across that course when I was out of work. I had lost my job, and I couldn't find a solution how to find a new job because I didn't know what to do. I had no motivation for anything in particular. It was very much a fog for me. And then I came across this course. And that course touched me so deeply that I felt immediately, I got many ideas, and I thought, wow, this could be used here, this could be used there. And the idea was that when I say use, I meant this could serve people in so many areas. So purpose is usually connected to a sense of giving. What am I here to give? What can I share with others? When we feel that we can share something with others, then we get the sense of meaning. And usually what we realize, it's secondary what we share. If I realize I'm good at baking and I can make bread, I can be a baker and I can make many happy through that will create meaning for me. For somebody else, it will be something different. But it is the experience of being able to share something with others, it's the core of purpose in life. And then we find our role together with others in the world. So we are connected with others, and that gives a very strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of meaning. It makes a human being very strong. So when I took this course, actually immediately I found work because I saw a direction. In this direction I want to go. Here I think I could share something. And so that was just a very typical example of experiencing purpose, and how when you experience purpose, you start to see clearly what steps to take next. So let's start with a little relaxation. Just make sure you sit comfortably and let your body relax. And if you sit in front of the screen, look somewhere else. Because if you're looking at me, you just start to think about me. You know, it's easier, you see a face and it gets distracted. So you can rest your eyes somewhere else in front of you. Just park your vision somewhere at the spot in front of you and allow your body to relax, and turn your mind inwards. Means start to think about who you are at this moment, how you feel inside. Accept yourself completely as you are at this moment. Think about yourself as a human being, as part of humanity, universal being. Go beyond all those boundaries of culture, language. Think about yourself from a spiritual perspective, being the living being at this moment, aware of yourself. And then remind yourself, think about maybe a favorite poem, or a book, or a film that has left a deep impression on you. So think about a poem or a book or a film that touched you very deeply. Think about how much you have read and seen through the years, and how much of it you have forgotten. So what is it that makes you remember this film or this story or this poem? What are the special qualities that you connect with this, and which belongs to you actually? And we get touched by something very deeply, tells us something about ourselves, something in ourselves that we long for. Something in ourselves that we value very much. If you want, you can make a note of it. Just 2-3 words. What comes up? As an example, I can share when I did this exercise the first time. I'm quite a childish person and I like animated pictures. And I remembered Pluto in Walt Disney films, the dog. And the quality I connected with remembering that was innocence, purity. So that can be very different for different people. What do you think about? What do you remember? And then the next question. When you look back at the most difficult and dark times in your life, what was it that helped you live through that and come out on the other side? What was it that kept you going? So when you think about the most difficult, the most dark periods of your life, you survived that, you came out on the other side. So what was it in you that helped you come through? What was it that kept you going? What gave you hope? What gave you strength? And another question is, what would you be prepared to sacrifice a lot for protecting? And sometimes we think of relationships, we think of sometimes even things or positions. Try to think more deeply. What is the non-physical quality behind that gives such a sense of meaning for you that you would be prepared to sacrifice a lot to protect it? And the next question. what do you feel that you can give the world? What do you feel that you have that you can give the world? Some contribution. It could be a quality which is especially valuable, and not only for you but for many others. And it might not be so obvious even to yourself, but when this quality is active, it's natural for you. It's something you do easily. And it's something you love to do. Even if it's in your trained evaluation, you might look at it as simple, not impressive, because we are trained to think about impressive things, to impress others. But usually the most valuable things we share with each other are everyday actions, small things, but holds a lot of meaning. And then the last question. Imagine that everything in your life that you have experienced has been a training for something. The lessons that you learned from the good times and the difficult times in life have all been there to prepare you for a special part that now awaits you. Just hold that thought and think about in which area in life do you think it can relate to? Meaning, in which area in life do you feel that you could bring a valuable contribution with the life experience that you have at this point? And then come back again to the present moment. So this was a quick taste from a course that has been very popular and very meaningful for many leaders who sit and listen to these questions and work with them. And I remember especially I was doing a course at the Naval Academy in Stockholm. This is now many years ago. But one memory was that, when people work with these kind of questions, it touches their hearts very deeply, because we are not used to ask these questions in everyday life. We think we have more important things to do, more serious things to do. But actually, these are serious questions, very, very important to ask ourselves. And I remember one of the officers, he was huge, was filling up the whole door when he was entering the room. And at the end of the course, they create a vision, they create a symbol of their purpose. And they make drawings. And then to show their drawings, I asked them if they would come forward and make their drawing on the whiteboard in the room. And I remember this big, impressive officer going up to the whiteboard and drawing a flower. And it was so sweet, because he also said, I don't know how I can continue, without this course now, without the relationships that we have formed in this room, and without the conversations that we have in this room. And for me, it also made me reminded that I looked at him as, from his physical appearance, like a big, big, tough man. But of course, there is so much more behind our physical appearance than what we first see. And I think that's also one of the things that is very important to connect with our purpose, is that we have to see beyond the surface. We have to see beyond the immediate appearance of someone, because everything has layers. And when we see more deeply, we start to see what we have in common. And that, I think, is something that creates meaning and a sense of purpose for all of us, is when we can recognize our commonality, and we recognize how we are related, actually, beyond all this, you can say, brainwash that we all experience, that we, through being told that some people are strangers and some people are friends, some people are enemies, it's not reality, but it's a game we learned to play. But when we connect with our purpose, it's like you open, if you could say, we have constructed a magnificent and very complex, not only a building, it's like a very complex city, or even a kingdom, where we are trapped. But when we can connect to that deeper sense of purpose, what can I bring? What can I share of goodness here? It's like I open a little door on the side, and I can sneak out from the complications of human relationships, and I can start build a network of connection and respect through that experience. So that is how I see purpose very much. I'm wondering what time is. It's 20 past. I have 5 minutes more. And so I actually think I should look at my notes. There was one thing I was thinking about, this training of how we get trained in the world to separate ourselves from each other and to feel alienated. It's no one's fault. We all fell into that trap, and it has continued for such a long time that it became second nature, or you could even say it became first nature. We orient ourselves by comparing and seeing differences. But for me, the looking for what we have in common, that creates a very deep sense of purpose for me. And actually, when I can also share this experience, that purpose is something very personal, but there can be several people who have very similar purpose, meaning similar, what can you say, drive. Purpose is something that drives you from your heart. And when I did this course, and it touched me so deeply, what I realized is that my purpose is to build bridges. So I created a symbol of bridges. And when you have a purpose, or when you not have, everyone has a purpose, but when you realize your purpose, when you discover it, you find that it works in many, many different situations. So it's not the same as a role. A role roles can change, but what you share in the different roles in your different situations can be very much on the same similar line. And I found that when I grew up, I often found myself in situations where I became helping people who had conflict to overcome their conflict. Like that. And it was like, it was so natural for me to start what do you call it, mediating between two people who had some kind of situation. And I didn't feel it was a big thing, I hadn't trained for that, but it was just you could say a natural, I can't find words, but it was just I was drawn to do that. And when I did it, I was surprised how it worked so well. And that is one way how you can look at finding your purpose. It will have shown itself in your life many times, even in your childhood. But you maybe did not put that into some, you didn't put purpose on that. It just happened and you didn't think about it so much. But when it gets clarified, when you clarify what you feel is your purpose in life, it helps you decide and see things clearer for yourself much easier. It's typical that I work for something called Spirit of Humanity Forum, because again, it's about building bridges. So I feel like a fish in the water in that kind of surrounding. And so purpose in life helps all of us to find a direction. And it's not the same as goals. Goals, they change. And goals can be many different ones. But goals can also take you off, can go in a completely different direction that takes you away from your purpose. So that is something one has to reflect on. One has to have a self-realization and reflect on and be very honest with oneself. What's happening now? Why am I going after this? So it was a distraction. Maybe I was attracted by something. I was impressed by someone. And it's typical how one can get off track of one's purpose. And when one starts to run after goals that are just temporary attractions, you find after a short while it's some emptiness in your heart. Purpose always, when you're aligned with your purpose, you always feel very rich. It feels very right, and you don't worry about what others, your position in connection with others. You know what you have to do. But when you run after goals and temporary attractions, it sidelines, and we have to learn how to discriminate that. So now I see it's time for meditation again, and then I would do a proper meditation, a complete, not only asking questions but more go into silence. So again, then, instead of looking at the screen and become screenified, we all become behind so many screens today, just rest your vision somewhere in front of you at a point. And then remember that you are part of humanity. You are a living being. And imagine the world like a stage where a big drama is being performed. And think about it. We are all actors. We all carry our different parts in this drama of life. But now for a moment, let's take a break. Imagine that you leave your costume, your role in the world behind you for a moment. And you become you, the original you, the living being, the soul behind your eyes. The living light in the body. The living being. Is naturally peaceful. I am peace. That is my true nature. And when I step away from the drama of life in this way, just with a thought, when I give up my role and even step away from my relationships in the world for a moment, just to connect with myself, I can feel that peace awakens in my heart, and it grows, because that is what I am, a being of peace. A being of light. And when I go into that feeling of peace, I imagine that it spreads around me. The vibration of peace goes into the atmosphere, and it touches others, even very far away. Someone in pain is touched by peace. Someone in a desperate situation suddenly gets a glimpse of peace and feels relieved. A moment of true peace can leave an eternal impression in someone else. So let me remain connected to this experience of being a peaceful being and share peace with everyone, regardless of where they belong in the world. They are all my brothers and sisters. They are all living beings. everyone thirsty for true peace. I hold that thought and come back again. And I come back again into action.
Thank you. Thank you, Lotta, for your very beautiful all the questions. People are really asking about the questions. Actually, they're asking. The question is to ask about the questions. And actually, I have written the notes. People can download the file and they can just want to tell everyone. But the
Oh,
first question, actually, I missed the first question. If you can please repeat the first question
yeah.
about the poem or something, which I missed. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like ask yourself. Remember, if you have a favorite poem or a favorite book or a favorite film, something that has left a very deep impression. We read so much,
Yeah.
we see so much, but some things stay with us, and there is a reason for that. It tells us something about ourselves, which is very important.
Yes. Okay, good. Because I have written just one line, just so that they can.
Yeah.
Okay, the second question is somebody's asking about the course which you have mentioned many times. Is
Yeah.
the course registered or something? Somebody's asking in the Arabic Zoom. Yes.
Actually, we changed it into something called inner leadership.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I have been holding it in Sweden and we've been holding it in Denmark. So I don't know if it's being held somewhere else or if you're doing it in Kuwait. I don't know. Are you doing something like that there?
Not,
Mm?
not really.
Mm. I've never tried to do it online. Actually, I have someone from a company in Sweden. She's been asking me if we can do it online, but I'm still getting, it's to speak to a camera is a bit.
Yes, but
It's
this
a
is the
bit
world
funny.
of Zoom nowadays.
Yeah, it's maybe time to learn to do it on Zoom also.
To talk to the boxes.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and somebody has asked a question, if you can please reply. I have come out of a dark moment of life, but I don't know how it happened. As I was too young, maybe 16 or 17, but today I'm really glad. So, how can I introspect myself and know?
I think all you need is just give it a little bit more thought, because this went very quickly. Even in the course, we don't go so quickly through these questions. And you can say these questions are thought-provoking, but usually when one gives time to reflect more and think more deeply, it emerges. And sometimes it doesn't emerge when we reflect, but it's like we start digging, and then at another moment, now I know.
Yeah, hopefully it will help
Mm.
them. Okay, so anybody else? Actually, everything is so clear. Nobody has asked anything. But one thing is that because you were sharing about everything, which I was listening every word with so much attention, because I wanted to write notes. So the essence is that giving, right?
Yeah,
The purpose.
yeah. The whole essence of purpose in life is directly connected with the feeling that you have something to share that other people appreciate. And it means, or that is meaningful for others, because you can share something and get applause, but it doesn't necessarily mean get meaning. I can give another example. I have a friend who is hockey player. It's a woman actually, and she plays ice hockey. And she's very good. She was one of the teams that were winning teams. And she said, I was famous for making many goals. And she said, but you know, when you make a goal, you get wow for a little while. And the next moment, I mean, you get wow straight after you had this tournament. But the moment you come out of that, you start thinking about your next goal. It doesn't leave an impression that warms your heart. She said, but what warmed my heart was helping when we got new team members. I got very interested in, oh, which role could she have? Would it be back player? Would it be this? And helping them and coaching them and seeing them grow, that left a heartwarming feeling that still stays with me today. And she made that so clear. You know, you can win a game and it's a high for a moment. You can be empty next moment. But when you do something that is meaningful for another person, that's something that it stays with you. So that's also how I feel, how purpose supports you. So when finding your purpose is meaningful both for you and for others.
Yes. So that is why there is a saying, right? That givers are more, they are happier than the takers.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Yes.
okay, somebody is asking a very interesting question, that what is your purpose of life? Actually, I have, when I was listening to the talk, you have replied to that, but
Yeah.
we want to know in little more detail, because you mentioned that your purpose is to building the bridge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? And
Well, what I find is that it's like I like very much when, and I did it many times. I had very many situations where people who seems to be not matching, people coming from very different backgrounds, when they can connect and start to form a friendship, I find that's just fantastic. It's like I get thrilled every time that happens. And we had, I remember a situation we had when I was doing this program at the Naval Academy. It was actually through a new contact. He was an officer. He was head of the leadership department of that college that they were in the naval, in the Marine or the Navy in Sweden. And he started to take the meditation course. So he came to the center. And he came straight after work. So he was wearing his, blue clothes with this, you have these golden things here. So he came and sit with all the others, and he had his hat, it was very impressive. And it was sitting by the other hats. And our center at that time was so small. You could hear everything through the walls. That was not impressive at all. And he came and sat there very proud. And I remember some people were looking at him and thinking, what is he doing here? He's a man of war. He doesn't fit in here. And I was feeling, how could you think like that? I think this is the most beautiful situation where someone you don't expect, actually they do connect. And that's what I feel, is that we often see the surface, but when you can penetrate that and see the more deeper connection, that's very beautiful. And I remember the person who thought that he was a person of war, because I got to know many of the Navy officers at the Navy, and they said, but we don't want a war. That's not why we became military. We are practical people, and that's very typical. We are practical people, and we see that we need to have a defense. We want to not have war, and this is our way to prevent war. So it can be like that. I'm not saying that everyone is the same, but so often when you, and that for me is also building a bridge. Eh, Building bridge means also the ability to listen more. It's like you're walking over a bridge. Often people are standing on the either side of the bridge and they're defending their own views. But if you start to walk on the bridge, you start to see a different perspective, and you can also meet someone and you suddenly see, now I know, now I understand, and we actually see the same from here. And I think it's just something that warms my heart a lot. And I feel wherever workplace I've been, I often ended up in situations where I was able to create those connections between people.
So through your experience, can you please tell us that what helps everybody, that what is the connection? What connects them finally?
Yeah, what is it that connects people? Of course, it can be different things in different situations, but I think basically it's when we can see our common humanity. And when we see our common humanity, we don't make a big fuss about who is strongest, who is best, who has the best belief, things like that. When we see the common humanity, we don't need to be the same. And we don't need to make the other person has to do the same thing as me, because fear disappears. And the common humanity is there, you recognize your brother. And when you recognize your brother, you don't need to change him, because you feel a connection. And because you feel that connection to your heart, it's a little bit like it's what is belonging. It's the sense of belonging that makes all the difference. So I feel also the lack of sense of belonging, it creates so much fear and so much tension and so much imagination. And then it's so easy to create, it's like explosives. You take a matchstick and boing, everything flies, because the ground is prepared. But you could turn it around and prepare the ground for no matchsticks will have any effect. If that makes sense.
Yes, yes, right. Because I remember, as I was mentioning in the beginning, in studio we were getting many, this conflict. People want to come and they want to resolve their conflicts. So this was the thing which was helping, that coming out of your that, those labels, and just on human level we can
Yeah,
solve everything.
yeah.
Okay, I think the last question today. Can you have many purposes in life or only one?
I think actually, yeah, because this question is a good question, and many ask also during the course, can purpose change? And I think no, you actually, because you are the same person in life. You might go through many different experiences. You might change in many ways through your life, but deeply you are the same person throughout your life. So, and you would find that therefore that your main strength will be following you throughout your life. But a, a purpose have many different expressions. It can express itself in many ways. So I think one has to explore that. But it's like a frog remains a frog. It has long legs. It can jump very far and it stays in the water. So somehow we have areas where we somehow connect to, but it doesn't mean we are confined. We don't need to think that I'm a frog, I can only stay in a pond. But even if I'm a frog, I could connect to all the other animals also. So it's not about dividing myself away from others. It's more about, if I connect to my deep inner goodness, that will be my key to the heart, to everyone else, from the way that I function. And I
Yeah.
think that is how we sort of accept ourselves and learn to know ourselves properly, so we can leave this game of trying to be someone else.
Right. So the theme will be the same, that thread will be the same, but
Yeah,
we can keep adding, or, Okay, the last line, last words of wisdom, because you are a meditator from so many years. So, last takeaway words of wisdom. What, like, last thing you want to say? Something like
Anything.
essence of your life, or so that we get the butter at the
Yeah,
end.
okay. Well, word of wisdom. I don't know how wise you feel it sounds like, but what I've learned through life: never take yourself too seriously. That will help you feel peaceful. It will help you connect with everyone else.
Yeah, that's the secret of your sparkling smile all the time. Okay, now we know. Thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
the
much.
time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. And see you next time. Thank you. Thank you.